this forum. So now it's my privilege to introduce Mr. Achyuta Ghosh, Head of Research and Mobility at NASSCOM, who will be speaking on state of enterprise AI adoption in India. And I'd like to request Achyuta to take it forward. So,
right. Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think, yeah. Please.
Yeah, I'm just trying to share my screen. Yeah, can you all see my screen also?
It's coming up. Yeah, we can see now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So thanks Raman, Rajkumar, Lenika. I think this is the third time that I'm part of ARC forum, and it's always been interesting, talking about the latest that NASSCOM is doing in different digital transformation related topics at your forum. Very engaging, audience and interesting speakers as always. So what I want to cover this time around is, this is something that we just wrapped up a couple of, a week back. It's called the AI Enterprise Adoption Survey. I think that's the topic that I want to cover. We've been talking about AI a lot, right? I mean, all of us keep talking about AI right, left, and center. But what we thought is that we talk about AI's impact, AI's ability to do certain things. Why should we take it up? We've never got into usage. What is the actual usage of all these things? So I think that's the aim that we had. We want to really cover things like how are people actually using AI and what's the state of adoption in India. And India is probably behind in a lot of these from a lot of these countries. But to start with, a little bit about what are the things that we will cover. So the things that we will cover will be a little bit about NASSCOM, what is the impact of AI in India that we estimate, what is the survey all about, what are the key findings from the survey, and then what does the road ahead look like for us. So these are the 5 things that we will cover in the next 20-25 minutes. If you just talk about NASSCOM, I'll just take a minute. Most of you know us. We are India's largest technology focused trade body, Chamber of Commerce. Our mission is to help the technology products and services industry in India to be trustworthy and innovative across the globe. I mean, that's a very simple mission statement, but it has a lot of connotations. Things like how do I create new markets within India and across the globe for Indian tech industry? How do I really reskill, upskill people? Because talent is the key thing that will make India a winner in this space. The third is, how can I keep driving the ecosystem? How can I drive policy advocacy? How can I drive security? How can I drive innovation, ease of doing business at a state level and at a national level in India? The fourth is, we have a very strong diversity focused, inclusion and diversity focused arm. So the idea is to have this industry as an equal opportunity industry. Fifth is, innovation. How do I strengthen India's innovation quotient? And we run a lot of incubator and startup programs around it. And then the last one is to build the overall narrative around tech for the country. And all these actually come together because we have about 3,000 plus companies as members of NASSCOM, tech companies. And there are a lot of other companies that we kind of, they're not a part of NASSCOM per se as membership, but we keep handholding them throughout when it comes to overall impact. So this is an overview of NASSCOM per se. I think there was an interesting, the Prime Minister had released a 5 trillion vision sometime back, the Indian economy, if you want to hit 5 trillion. What are the key pieces that we need to focus on? What can digital technologies do to enable that, right? So what we believe is that if you look at the last few months, I mean, I think India responded very promptly to contain COVID. The scale of response was unprecedented. On ground, there has been war rooms that have highlighted, the gaps in data assets and integrated systems that are fundamental for pandemic response and reopening the economy. I think those were key challenges that we encountered because this was a situation unheard of. importance of coordination and avoiding fragmentation also kind of came up, right? And it has been critical that rapid action to be taken to further enhance data and AI capabilities at scale across all sectors, including health, right? As the country moves towards recovery, economic stimulation. What we believe is that data and AI could address the dual goals of economic and social value creation and recovery. So I think the two pieces that we are looking at is recovery and the social value creation. Data and AI can support government and businesses during the crisis, that we are going through right now, the healthcare crisis that we are going through right now, and restarting the economic engine. Utilization of data and AI can actually play a very crucial role in realizing India's 2025 vision of inclusive development. And our estimate is that about 450 to 500 billion dollar impact can happen because of usage of data and AI in the Indian economy. So that's the boost that we are looking at, that AI can actually give by 2025. There are countries that are actively promoting AI and driving initiatives across these 5 building blocks. You've got strategy, you've got the data systems in place, you've got the tech stack in place, and then you've got the people, and then you're executing well. So if you look at the overall building blocks, these are the 5 main building blocks that I think we should look at. They have also acted with speed and started a lot of initiatives together in a concerted manner. So a lot of countries are ahead, and a lot of countries are actually going much more ahead during this period of crisis. If India acts quickly, it can become actually one of the first countries to launch a holistic data utilization and AI effort. I mean, it's a lot of countries, they still do not have a very holistic approach to it. So I think India can take the lead and do that. A coordinated program across the 5 building blocks that I talked about, right? Is required to capture the opportunity. It's not going to be easy, but it requires a coordinated response system. Investments in data and AI can be self-sustaining. It's not that you keep thinking that there won't be any return. There would be returns, and after a point of time, you actually get significant value out of it. I know, so a lot of people stay back thinking that there would be a fiscal issue, but I think we think that that can be sorted out. While India has strengths to capitalize, delays can be very expensive. There is potential to accelerate India's progress. Our assumption is that if we start now, we can actually realize the value by 2025. So I think that's the key opening statement that I had while talking about the initial slide. If I go to the next slide. Sorry, can you see my screen?
Yes, Achyuta, we can see your screen.
Only video is not coded.
Your video is little hazy, that's all.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just trying to move some of these. Yeah, so I think, we're in slide 5, right? Perfect. So, this is a brief about what we did, right? The AI Enterprise Adoption Survey, what was it all about? So, we kind of looked at, we already know the impact of AI, what it can create. And what we did is that we did a survey of 500 plus CXOs all across India. And the idea was to understand, the maturity and adoption of AI across all those CXOs. The questions that we asked, 3 primary questions. The first question was, where should enterprises start their AI journey? So in a way, the idea was to guide these companies to, those who have already started, tell them how to do it better. Those who have not started, tell them how to kind of start, right? So the first step over here was to build a very big AI use case repository. So what did we do? We built a use case repository of about 600 use cases spread across 4 sectors. That was the repository first. Then the second piece was to create a use case prioritization. Where do you start? Where do you move from the start? Where do you actually end up? So if you're an organization, how should you actually proceed in your AI adoption strategy? So those were the first couple of steps we did. The second step we did was to understand the supply side and the demand side. So we try to understand the consumer, the customer at the end of it. What are their challenges, what are their issues, what are the expectations out of AI, what do they perceive that AI can do for them, what is their level of readiness. I mean, there is a lot of difference between what they think and what they achieve, and I'll touch upon it later on. And where have they deployed AI? So we wanted to understand on the supplier side, the demand side. On the supplier side, we wanted to understand the level of quality of products that they have, the solutions that they offer, the client base that they have, kind of aggregated. And this was spread across big companies, service providers, technology and product companies, and also startups. So we did an analysis of both the demand side and the supply side. The third part is kind of putting this all together. Your your audience, what are the kind of use cases available. So how do you now tailor your use cases along with the audience? So how can actually enterprises move up the value curve? I think that was the crucial question which actually brought these things together. So we created a maturity model. We looked at existing maturity models. We did a lot of interviews with industry leaders. We worked with ENY on this. So ENY was a research partner, and that actually helped us create a proper maturity model. And along with putting together what are the best practices, what actually works, what are the must-haves for people to adopt AI in the organization. And that's that's in a nutshell what the report is all about. The report I'm going to present is an overview, adoption trends. What we did is, after this, we kind of created industry playbooks. So this project focused on 4 sectors: BFSI, retail, healthcare, and agriculture. These were the 4 focus areas for us. Then what we've gone ahead is that we have created detailed playbooks around each of these 4 areas. If you are a BFSI industry player, how should you adopt AI? Same thing goes for retail, healthcare, and agriculture, and what are the ways. And then we have the NASSCOM Center of Excellence, which actually helps them adopt AI going forward. So that's the the execution piece that NASSCOM helps in. So I think this is where we are in terms of the adoption survey background around it. I think I have about 4 or 5 key findings. The first one is that there's a very positive message that AI is beginning to appear more real, and CXOs and leaders are actually realizing the need to deploy AI for generating value. I think this is a very important point for me. And what we looked at is that out of the 500 plus CXOs that we surveyed, the important part was that 60% of the respondents believe that AI will disrupt their businesses within the next 2 to 3 years. I think that's a very strong backing for the technology among all these leaders. And this is at a CXO level, at a CEO level, and at a CTO level, it will probably be a lot more higher. The second part is that organizations that have implemented AI have actually achieved tangible business benefits. About 70% of the organizations that have implemented AI, they actually say that yes, our business benefits are tangible. The remaining 30%, they have not said no, their business benefits are not tangible, but it's still work in progress. They have still not been able to realize the business benefits out there. So that's the first 2 points I want to highlight. The third point over here is that even though 60% of the respondents believe that AI will disrupt their business, the adoption levels are very low. So out of the 500 CXOs we reached out to, about 25% said that okay, we realize that AI is great, but only 25% of us have actually gone ahead and adopted AI. So there is a drop in terms of realization and in terms of application or implementation of AI. And we kind of further explored that a little bit more. One cut was actually try to look at a vertical level and see what kind of vertical trends are there. So there were about 120, 30 odd BFSI companies that we spoke to. Enterprises across sectors are embracing AI with varying levels of commitment. Typically BFSI, which has always been a little bit aggressive when it comes to tech implementation, they seem to have a higher adoption of AI as compared to the other sectors. So out of all the BFSI companies we spoke to, about 36% of them have actually adopted AI. So I think that was a positive that we saw. Even retail, for that matter, was slightly better off when it came to adoption of AI. And then healthcare and agriculture were the two sectors which were slightly behind. Agriculture was significantly behind, given that it requires a lot of large-scale investment and it's a very fragmented market. So I think that's where we saw that there is tremendous headroom for growth, especially in India, where agriculture is extremely important and it can make a significant difference in our country, which is resource inhibited to a certain extent. However, other sectors are catching up, and conversations with these enterprises have revealed several powerful applications of AI across the enterprise value chains. There are sectoral influences also on enterprise choice of AI, right? Retail and BFSI, typically front-ending industries, right? They also prefer customer-centric functions to be more AI-enabled. Whereas business leaders in healthcare and agriculture believe operations to be the highest potential area because they operate in the background, so operations becomes important, right? So in a way, you kind of tweaking your AI application according to your industry. What we believe is that there are different lenses to look at AI value. Make sure one that you have the right one for you, because different companies tend to do it differently. So there is no one size fit all model for AI. And second is picking the right areas to focus on should be in line with your organization priorities and technology limitations. I mean, there are certain limitations that we cannot go beyond if you are in a particular industry, right? So I think choosing that rather than running or going after any industry which is doing better, any industry which is more visible, you have to tailor your approach to your own industry. So top 3 AI solutions in BFSI, for example, is customer churn prediction, fraud detection, financial recommendations. For retail, it is customer segmentation, demand forecasting. It's a big area for retail. Dynamic pricing management. How can you, customize your pricing at a micro level to suit your market conditions? For healthcare, it is the personalized treatment plan, right? I mean, we've started to see some of those appear, and AI has a significant role to play there. Monitoring of your chronic conditions. Drug development, how can you accelerate? We are seeing the current situation of the vaccine not yet ready, and healthcare. In fact, yesterday on Twitter I shared a list of top 50 innovative companies in the world. There was only one healthcare company in that list, Novartis. Out of that, remaining 49 companies were all non-healthcare. I mean, it's stunning that in the last 5 or 10 or 30 years, if you look back, progress in healthcare has not been as high as other industries have moved, and AI actually offers a great way to change that order. Maybe get some more companies up to the list. In agriculture, I think we look at crop and livestock disease management, precision farming, high impact but low application as of now, and grading and sorting. Supply chain applications are probably the second biggest item over there. So I think that is what we see, that at a sectoral level there is a lot of variation. People and within a sectoral level also where AI is looked at is also extremely different. So I think there are variations there. Another finding that we saw is that the hurdles to AI, typically companies say, hey, this is the reason I don't want to adopt AI, or this is the reason I want to adopt AI. I think the hurdles look very different once you are on the journey. So once you are on the adoption journey, what actually looked to be big don't seem to be big anymore, and vice versa. Sorry. Yeah. So what we saw is that most companies say technology and data, that's their biggest challenge when it comes to AI. They believe that your external ecosystem is not yet mature, right? Because your data platforms are not available, your tech stack is not available, or not normalized, not available at value. I think that becomes an important issue. So that's the biggest challenge that most of these guys said, most of the CXOs said. The second piece that came out was, ability to prove ROI. So, just to get ROI on AI, it becomes a difficult challenge because most of the organizations, they do not have great, examples to fall back upon to say that, hey, that company did it like this, and that's the ROI they got. So, in a way, we could also do that because most companies are struggling with that. So almost 53% of the people we surveyed said that, the biggest challenge for us is ability to quantify ROI. The third challenge over there is very important, I feel, which is trust, ethics, and regulations. Right now, there are no AI regulations. Right now, there is ethics is being talked about, but there needs to be a lot more around, how do you use AI? How do you remove bias? And then, whether you'll trust AI. Because you'll trust AI to make decisions. There was a nice article that I come across where there was an AI-enabled, investment robot, and it was supposed to do value investing. It was supposed to, pick stocks which were low priced, and they made a lot of sense. You know what the robot did? The robot went ahead and bought the 3 most expensive stocks available out there: Amazon, Facebook, and Google. Why? Because the robot thought that it's still value. There's a lot of headroom for growth. So I think trust in AI is also a big challenge, and a lot of people believe that AI explainability is the primary reason why it's holding back your decision making around AI. And fourth, but not the least more important, is talent and culture. The talent shortage around AI is very big. And understanding of AI at an organization level, the cultural shift that needs to happen, man working with machine, and so on and so forth. I think that becomes another big area for most companies to look at. So given all these challenges, what we actually went out and did a cut around how companies who have already adopted AI, deployed AI, consider these challenges to be, and how enterprises that have not deployed AI look at. I mean, there are some certain differences, which actually goes back to my first point that once you're on the journey, AI looks very different to you. So those who have not deployed area, their key concern areas are external, that that ecosystem is not mature, you are not able to quantify ROI. Almost 47% believe that you are not able to consider ROI, right? Digitization levels are low. 58% of the people said that digital levels are low, right? And your talent and culture, 40% perceive that your workforce will be displaced, job losses will happen. So there would be a stiff resistance from employees. Employees will not allow you to implement AI, right? I mean, these are the things that people who have not implemented should. And then, of course, trust, data security, privacy, they are also top of the mind. But the top of the mind are those 3 or 4 areas that we listed out. The people who have deployed AI, for them, it's a different challenge altogether. Those who are already on the journey, they think that low digitization externally is not a big problem. But data training is, so training of data becomes important here. The people who have deployed, they say it's very easy to quantify ROI. So in a way, once you're on the path, you actually know where the path is leading to, what is the end of the road. And when it comes to talent and culture, those guys who have already implemented, less than half of them, as compared to those who have not implemented, say that workforce displacement is an actual risk. And that it can be mitigated with strong change management, training, reskilling. So once you're on the journey, you realize that it's not about job losses at all, AI adoption. And when it comes to the trust, ethics, regulation point, AI explainability and bias becomes more important. I mean, this is not there in the list of people who are yet to start. So AI explainability becomes a bigger challenge once you get started. So that was the interesting part, that we believe that we get to know the intricacies of AI as we move forward. Which leads us to the next finding, which says that you probably need to have an AI maturity model, which will help you drive adoption in your organization. And we have created a 8-dimensional AI maturity model. First is leadership commitment. Second is process. You need to sort out the way you want to do it. Third is ethics, governance, controls. Fourth is data. Fifth is all about the innovation programs. Sixth is culture and people. Seventh is tool technologies, and then you have got business impact. And all these 8 variables actually lead you to a 3-stage maturity level that we've identified. So you have a beginner stage, and followed by an intermediate stage, and then followed by an advanced stage. So how do these stages actually look like? For a beginner, it's all about understanding the art of possible. I think that's the biggest challenge that we feel, that most people don't know before starting their journey, even when they've started their journey, is that what can be done, what can be possible, just because it's a nascent technology at the end of it. So a beginner has to understand that what are my goals that we want to achieve. Second is evaluating the ideas. I mean, how do you evaluate idea A versus idea B, idea C? You need a little bit of a structured thinking. And then performing proof of concept. So how do you quickly go ahead and create those POCs? Don't think about AI as a $1 billion implementation plan. Start very, very small and create your use cases and your proof of concepts. So that's at the beginner stage. You move from a beginner stage to an intermediate stage by doing three things. One, seeding the AI competency beyond proof of concept. So how do you build capability, once you build and validated your proof of concept. Second is driving collaborative business and IT models. So your business goals and your technology teams have to work together very comprehensively. So how do you make them to work collaboratively? And trust me, it's very easy to sound, but it's not that easy out there in the real world. And the third part is, how do you get management sponsorship? It shouldn't remain a technology, a technology initiative. It should be a strategic initiative. It should be a management initiative at the end of it. So the executive sponsorship is very important. And the third part is, when you move from an intermediate to an advanced stage, how do you measure value? How do you start measuring value? I think there are different ways to measure value. It's not only about revenues. It's about, cleaning up your operations. It's about, overall productivity. It's about new markets that are open. It's about, adding to your brand, right? There are different ways that AI can add value. Second is, how do you make it enterprise-wise adoption to a certain extent? And the third is, not to look internally, but to look externally. How do you collaborate with industry disruptors out there? How do you create your ecosystems? AI has to be built on ethical systems. So, AI systems observe and learn. They make decisions as per the underlying ethical systems. Explainable AI is all about the system logic that is transferable and transparent and traceable. So I think that's the focus for us. And then you align your outcomes with your business metrics. So AI systems focused on strategies, keeping companies' purpose, goals, and objectives in mind. I'll just move on to my next slide. I know I am getting a little bit short of time. So the last key finding that I wanted to share was that impactful AI programs, so best-in-class AI programs, brings together talent, data, governance, and risk management backed by management support. I touched upon it in the previous slide also. There is an interesting model that we have created. At the center of this model is, trusted AI. Trust is the linchpin of enterprise-wide AI adoption. While 57% of the respondents that we spoke to stated that they trust AI to make operational and strategic decisions, only 32% stated that they will have people make decisions with inputs from AI systems. So in a way, AI to make decisions, people are already trying to trust it to a certain extent. The second part of this overall framework is strategic planning. So according to a survey, about 74% of the enterprises said that they have established a formal strategy or obtained C-suite sponsorship to initiate, scale up their AI programs. The strategic planning approach helps to integrate the key levers of talent, technology, and data. So you've got these three levers of talent, technology, and data within a company's business objectives to help justify your AI investments. The majority of the respondents believe that incremental changes to their underlying technology infrastructure will be sufficient for AI adoption. So it doesn't have to be drastic, it doesn't have to be a huge investment, but incremental changes can actually make it happen. Talent is seen as a critical success factor, but reskilling of existing talent pool is the most preferred strategy by majority of respondents. Almost 80% of the respondents, they're saying that we can reskill our existing talent. That's not about getting people out and large scale workforce rebalancement. So this actually enables company to leverage new technologies, new skills, and also build on the existing organization knowledge that employees already have, right? And the third pillar that this stands on is the integrated governance. So AI needs to be understandable, auditable, and founded on reliable data. Integrated governance is needed to promote reliability of data gathering, usage processes, safeguards, right? Almost 50% of the surveyed enterprises state that their data strategy, specifically as relates to disparate data sets coming together and strengthening data security, has significant scope for improvement. It's not up to the mark, and that is itself is a big challenge for most of us to get our AI programs successful. Almost 88% of them said that they need to improve their risk management, statistics. So I think that's where they are. So modernizing of existing technology infrastructure and creating a single view of data is top priority for enterprises to scale their AI implementation. I think that's one statement that I wanted to just leave this group with. And just to end, I have a couple of quotations that we came across that most CXOs acknowledge the benefits of AI are real and measurable, but the art of possible is something that is limiting people to kind of adopt AI. AI holds tremendous potential for helping companies innovate, enhance competitiveness, and generates long-term value. They are sustainable, the benefits are sustainable, but it requires organizations to address challenges, relate to talent, data, technology, governance, include critical aspects related to ethics, accountability, and explainability. Doing so will enable business leaders to build stakeholder trust and rapidly scale their AI programs. So that's all I had at my side. Happy to take any questions if there are any.
I'm Raman here, Achyuta. We have a question from one of the audience, but the question is related to the Indian context. The question is in the Indian context, adopting AI and robotics also with machine learning applications. Will it not put the jobs at stake?
So I think we asked that question to some of those people, and I think I shared that in my presentation also, that most people feel that AI, people who have not implemented, they believe that to be real, right? I mean, I covered in the table that I shared where I said talent and culture. Enterprises that have not yet deployed AI, almost 40-50% of the people feel that workforce displacement will happen. Those who have come on the path, only 19% of them feel that workforce displacement is a risk. The rest, 80% of them, and that too can be mitigated with strong change management and reskilling. So I think it's a very outside-in view that the people have that AI along with IoT will lead to job losses, but most of the people at the CXO level feel that those who have started deploying that that's not the case.
Okay, thanks Achyuta. Been quite on time, and thanks for being part of supporting ARC for the last 3-4 times, and great working with you. We'll let you go now, and then we'll start the next speaker. Right, Rajkumar?
Thank you. Thanks everyone.